Hey, welcome to the Pharmacy Residency Podcast, a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I did want to tell you about a service that I kind of hid. I didn't really want a lot of people doing this because I only have a capacity to help a couple a day. But if you want my help with a mock interview and a site analysis of all the sites you have interviews to, and then I can do that for you. So the regular Rockstar Residency interview prep and support includes months of email support, and then the 3 hours of videos on the point system, and then I'll look at your top site and say, okay, well, these are maybe the things that you should do. But I have another option, which I didn't realize was so necessary until I kind of heard from a couple students, but there is another one for $295 if you want me to review all of your sites that you got interviews to, and then do a 30-minute mock interview and analysis of that interview and how you can improve. And I understand that some schools have formal processes for this, and you spend $250,000, you should get it. But if you have not had that practice interview and you don't want to make your first two or three interviews your practice interviews, I will do it for you and I will work with you, and then do an all-site brief analysis, which means I'll look at all of your sites against your letter of recommendation and your CV, and kind of help you along the way as it relates to rankings and things like that. And so this is really for a couple of different groups. So it's for someone who may have only one interview and they want to get their very best shot at that one interview, and they don't have an ability to practice beforehand. It's for those people who have multiple interviews and aren't really sure how to rank them and necessarily how to improve, because it's not like the site gives you feedback after your first one. Yes, you're more experienced, but what were the mistakes you made? What were the things that you could improve? The big thing is being able to do an analysis with your team and say, okay, well, it's clear that you didn't interview as well as you could have because your filler words really overshadowed what you were trying to say. You didn't necessarily prepare the right questions for the presentation, and then you are split between ambulatory care and acute care, which means you have to work twice as hard because you have to prepare not only ambulatory care cases, but ambulatory care cases, but acute care cases. And you want to prepare them for the people that are interviewing you. So if you've got a BCCP interviewing you, then you have to prepare critical care cases. If you've got a pediatric resident interviewing you, you would want to have pediatrics. And the one thing that I would caution you with is you're not trying to impress them with your knowledge. You're trying to impress them with your willingness to learn. And the way that I would phrase it, especially if I had a content expert there, is I would say what I learned about this was this, but I would love to know more, or I would love to improve. So it really, half an hour is really what I need in terms of a conversation, hearing your answers to the questions to really understand what's going on. And I will tell you, the number one mistake that interviewees make is that they're trying to beat other people on how they're trying to beat other people in the same game. So for example, someone would say, well, I had a leadership position as vice president. All right, well, somebody was president. Okay, I did critical care rotation. Okay, well, somebody did 2 critical care rotations. What you really want to do is make sure that you get the logos, pathos, and egos. And that's, to some extent, the logos and a little bit of the ethos. But really, are you touching on the pathos? And you would think, well, pathos, first of all, it means, feeling, and, kind of the feelings that you invoke and imbue. And the question is, what kind of a feeling does the resident, other residents, and the RPD, what kind of a feeling do they get after they're done interviewing you? Is it a feeling of, wow, this person really likes to work with other people, is really easy to get along with? Or is this someone that's a gunner that's just trying to fit in as much information as I can, thinking that whoever puts in the most information wins the interview? And it really isn't like that. It's more who's connecting the most. So if these questions don't end with something that goes back to the site, then that's a missed opportunity. Yes, you might have answered the question correctly. This was my strength. This was my weakness. This is my strength and how it relates to your site. This is my weakness and how I've worked on it and how I will be able to improve through your site. It's always coming back to them. Nobody wants to hear about someone talking about themselves, even in an interview. When it's an interview about that person, it's really not. It's a conversation. And that conversation should always go back to the other group. So it's very easy to... The nice thing about interviewing and things like this is that it's really easy to make an exponential early leap. That is, I can give you 2 or 3 things that will improve your ability dramatically, and really your mindset as you're going into it. While you might be trying to remember everything that you want to say, it really is never about that. It's, are you easy to get along with? Are you someone that we would enjoy having here? Are you someone that would back us up and not cause us problems? All of these things come into play. And the mistake is to try to get the perfect answer. Rather, it's trying to get that perfect feeling of conversationalism, of connection, and so forth. It seems a little unfair. It should be objective. Okay, well, I got the most points. I should be it. But ultimately, the RPD can go, yeah, but just don't have a real good feeling about it. And you say, well, that doesn't seem fair. Well, I have many times with my wife wanted to make a decision, and then her only answer was, well, I just don't have a good feeling about that. And I know not to go against that. I don't know objectively why that feeling is there for her. Let me give you a great example. I was going to go buy a house over by the high school. It was right by the high school. It was a brand new build. It was beautiful. It looked like, things were really good in terms of, all the numbers seemed to work out. And she's like, yeah, I just don't feel good about it. I was like, okay, all right. And then I ended up buying a house, which ended up being much better with no HOA and a lot of good things about it. But when I went back, I saw that there was a telephone pole in front of the house, like directly in front of it. And yes, it wouldn't affect most people, but it was a power line. It was basically right in front of the house. No, it had to be a telephone pole. It was right in front of the house. And I didn't even notice it. And then when I went out there and listened, it was really noisy. And it was very tough. It would be very tough to rest. And the headlights from cars would keep coming by. And then it was also backing to this come and go kind of down the street. And so what her feeling was saying was she absorbed all of that and didn't need to say, okay, well, this and this and this and this. She's like, I just don't feel good about it. Okay. And so that's the big question. After they listen to your interview, are they going to feel good about it? And then, how can you prepare with all the things that you've got going on, APPEs and all that stuff? And the answer is you can interview other people. Interviewing other people is the easiest way to get better and faster at it. It's too nerve-wracking to practice interviewing. You can do it a couple times, but you really don't want to make the focus your practicing interview. You want to interview other people to see, oh, well, I wouldn't have answered it that way. That's a really neat way to answer it. And then it sticks in your brain. So we're just kind of built to help other people. So my advice in terms of preparing is actually to have a back and forth with another classmate or faculty member and so forth. And to say, would you mind if I interviewed you so I could kind of see how you would answer these questions? Because what you really want is other answers and feel like you've been there before. So anyway, this is something that's available. If you just want the single site analysis and you just want the 3 hours of content on the point system and all of that stuff, it's the $95 regular one with the email support. But then if you want me to do a mock interview with you for 30 minutes, analyze all your sites, help you with rankings as we kind of go into it, I can do that as well. But that actually takes a ton of time, like a ton of time. So the price is almost triple what the other one is. So anyway, reach out to me, TonyThePharmacist@gmail.com if you got questions. Look forward to talking to you guys.